There are moments in life when the year feels heavy, when the days pass, the months slip away, and you begin to wonder if anything will ever change. Perhaps you started this year with hope, dreams, and prayers. You believed something good was coming, but somewhere along the way, disappointment showed up. Doors closed, prayers seemed unanswered. And maybe tonight you are quietly asking in your heart, God, have you forgotten me? But I want you to listen very carefully to this message, because what I am about to say could change the way you see the rest of this year. God is not finished with your story. Before this year ends, God can do something so unexpected, so powerful, so life-changing that you will look back and say, only God could have done this. The God who created the heavens and the earth does not work according to human calendars. When people say it's too late, God says it's just the right time. When the world says the door is closed, God opens a new one that no one can shut. Many people give up just before the miracle happens. They walk away just before the breakthrough comes. That is why you must hear this entire message today, because what God may be preparing for you could arrive suddenly, unexpectedly, and powerfully. Stay with me, because we are going to discover how God works in the final moments of a season, why He often waits until the last minute, and how your greatest blessing may be closer than you think. Many of the greatest miracles happen when people think the situation is over. Human beings look at circumstances, but God looks at possibilities. When everything seems ordinary, God may already be preparing something extraordinary behind the scenes. Sometimes we think God must act early in the year, early in the process, or early in the struggle. But God is never in a hurry, and He is never late. He works at the perfect moment. Right now, you may feel like nothing is changing, but heaven may already be moving in ways you cannot yet see. Waiting is one of the hardest experiences in life. We pray, we believe, and yet days turn into months. But waiting does not mean God is inactive. Often the waiting season is when God is shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing your heart for the blessing that is coming. If God gave us everything instantly, we might never grow. The delay is not denial. Sometimes the delay is preparation. There are moments when life changes in a single day. A door opens unexpectedly. A problem that seemed impossible suddenly disappears. A new opportunity appears where there was none before. God can change a situation faster than we can imagine. What looks permanent to us can shift in a moment when God moves. And many times, those sudden turnarounds happen right at the end of a season. If you want to see what God can do before the year ends, you must keep believing even when you cannot see results. Faith is not just believing when things look good. Faith is believing when nothing seems to be happening. Faith says, God, I trust you even when I don't understand. And when a heart holds on to faith, it becomes ready for the surprises God loves to give. Too many people decide their story too early. They say, nothing good will happen to me. But God writes the final chapter, not us. The year is not over yet. The story is not finished yet. The breakthrough may still be coming. And one day soon, you may look back and realize that just when you thought nothing would change, God surprised you. There are times in life when everything around us seems quiet, ordinary, and unchanged. Days pass in the same routine. Prayers seem to rise into the air without an answer, and hope begins to fade little by little. Many people reach a point where they begin to believe that if something good were going to happen, it would have happened already. They start thinking that their opportunity has passed, that their moment is gone, and that nothing surprising could possibly take place anymore. But one of the greatest truths about God is that He often works when we least expect it. Human beings tend to measure life by what they can see, If the doors appear closed, we assume they will stay closed. If the situation looks impossible, we assume nothing will change. But God does not operate according to human expectations. He is not limited by what we see or by what others say. The God who created the universe out of nothing is still able to step into any situation and change it in a moment. Throughout history, again and again, God has moved in ways that no one expected. People thought the situation was finished, the opportunity was gone, and the hope had disappeared. Yet just when it seemed that nothing could happen, God stepped in with power and changed everything. Sometimes the greatest miracles happen quietly, behind the scenes, while we are unaware. We may think nothing is happening because we cannot see the movement. But just because we cannot see it does not mean God is not working. God often prepares blessings long before they appear in our lives. He arranges circumstances, aligns people, and opens paths that we could never have planned on our own. Imagine a farmer planting seeds in the ground. After the seed is planted, the field looks exactly the same. Day after day, nothing appears to change on the surface. But beneath the soil, something powerful is taking place. The seed is growing, roots are forming, and life is developing in silence. In the same way, God may be working beneath the surface of your life right now. You may look at your situation and see nothing changing. Your prayers may feel unanswered. Your circumstances may appear stuck in the same place. But what you cannot see is what God may already be doing. While you are waiting, God may already be arranging the answer. One of the challenges of faith is learning to trust God when there is no visible evidence. Anyone can believe when the miracle is already happening, but real faith believes before the miracle arrives. Real faith says, even though I cannot see what God is doing, I trust that He is still at work. And many times God chooses the moment when people least expect Him to move. Why does He do that? Because when the miracle finally happens, there is no doubt about who deserves the credit. When everything looks impossible and then suddenly changes, everyone can see that it was not human effort, human strength, or human planning. It was the hand of God. There are people listening right now who may feel like the best moments of their lives are behind them. You may feel that too much time has passed, that too many opportunities have been lost, or that the year is almost over and nothing has changed. But God does not follow the timetable that we create in our minds. What seems late to us is never late to Him. God can do in one moment what seems impossible for years. He can open a door that no one else could open. He can change a situation that has remained the same for a long time. He can bring a blessing that arrives suddenly and unexpectedly. That is why you must never allow disappointment to steal your expectation. Just because something has not happened yet does not mean it will not happen. Just because you have not seen the answer yet does not mean the answer is not on its way. There is a powerful truth we must remember. God often saves His greatest surprises for moments when people have stopped expecting them. When hope seems small, when the situation seems quiet, and when the future appears uncertain, God can suddenly step into that moment and reveal that He has been working all along. So do not lose heart. Do not allow the silence of the moment to convince you that God has forgotten you. The same God who has performed miracles throughout history is still able to move in your life today. And before you even realize what is happening, you may find that the situation you thought would never change has suddenly been transformed. Because God often works when we least expect it. And when He moves, everything can change. Waiting is one of the most difficult experiences a person can face. It tests the heart, challenges the mind, and stretches faith in ways that comfort never can. When we pray and the answer does not come immediately, when we hope and nothing seems to change, it is easy to feel discouraged. Many people begin to believe that if God were truly working, things would have happened by now. But the truth is that waiting does not mean God is absent, and it certainly does not mean the season has been wasted. In our human nature, we want quick answers. We live in a world where everything moves fast. We can send messages instantly, receive information immediately, and expect results quickly. Because of this, we sometimes bring the same expectations into our relationship with God. We pray and expect an instant solution. We ask and hope the answer will appear the next day. But God does not operate according to the pace of our impatience. His timing is deeper, wiser, and more purposeful than we often understand. A waiting season is not an empty season. It is often the very place where God is doing His most important work in our lives. When everything happens quickly, we rarely grow. But when we are forced to wait, we begin to develop strength that we did not know we had. Our faith becomes deeper. Our character becomes stronger. Our dependence on God becomes greater. Think about how life works in nature. The strongest trees do not grow overnight. They grow slowly, season by season, year after year. Their roots go deep into the ground, making them strong enough to withstand storms and strong winds. If those trees grew instantly without developing deep roots, the first storm would destroy them. In the same way, God sometimes allows a season of waiting so that our spiritual roots can grow deeper. During these seasons, it may seem like nothing is happening, but God may be shaping you into the person who can carry the blessing He is preparing for you. If the blessing arrived too early, you might not be ready for it. The waiting season becomes a time of preparation. Sometimes God is not only preparing you, but also preparing the circumstances around you. There may be people who need to enter your life, situations that must change, or opportunities that must develop before the right moment arrives. What feels like a delay may actually be God arranging everything perfectly. Many people miss this truth because they focus only on the waiting, not on the purpose behind it. They see the time passing and assume that nothing meaningful is taking place. But heaven does not measure time the way we do. God sees the complete picture of your life from beginning to end. He knows exactly when the right moment will arrive. There are countless stories of people who waited for long seasons before their lives suddenly changed. During those long periods of waiting, they learned patience, perseverance, humility, and faith. Those lessons became the foundation that allowed them to stand strong when the blessing finally came. If you are in a waiting season right now, it does not mean your prayers have been ignored. It does not mean your faith has been wasted. And it does not mean your future is empty. It may simply mean that God is still preparing the moment that will surprise you. Waiting also teaches us trust. When everything is visible and predictable, trust is easy. But when we cannot see what lies ahead, we must rely on faith. Trusting God in those moments is one of the most powerful expressions of faith a person can have. And here is something many people discover later in life. When they finally receive the answer they were praying for, they realize the waiting season was not meaningless at all. It was the very season that prepared them for what was coming. So if you feel that you have been waiting a long time, do not lose heart. The months that seem slow to you are not wasted in God's plan. Every day of waiting may be shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing the path for what lies ahead. Because sometimes the greatest blessings come after the longest seasons of waiting. And when the moment finally arrives, you will look back and understand that every day of that waiting season had a purpose. Life has a way of convincing us that some situations will never change. When problems last for a long time, when struggles continue month after month, and when doors remain closed no matter how hard we try, it is easy to believe that things will always stay the same. People begin to accept limitations as permanent. They start adjusting their expectations, lowering their hopes, and telling themselves that this is simply the way life will be. But one of the most powerful truths about God is that He specializes in sudden turnarounds. What looks permanent to us is never permanent to God. What seems impossible in human strength is never impossible for Him. A situation that appears stuck for years can be changed in a single moment when God decides to move. That is the nature of divine power. It does not always unfold slowly. Sometimes it arrives suddenly, unexpectedly, and with such force that it transforms everything. Many people believe that change must happen gradually. They assume that if their life has been difficult for a long time, improvement will come slowly and little by little. While there are seasons when growth happens step by step, there are also moments when God acts in ways that completely shift the direction of a person's life overnight. A sudden turnaround can come in many forms. It might be an opportunity that appears when you had almost given up looking. It could be a problem that seemed impossible to solve, but suddenly finds a solution. It might be a relationship that begins to heal after years of tension. It could even be a moment of clarity where your entire perspective changes and a new path becomes visible. The reason these moments feel so powerful is because they arrive when people least expect them. When hope has grown small and the future seems uncertain, that is often when God chooses to reveal His power. It reminds us that He was never limited by the circumstances that looked so overwhelming to us. There are countless moments in life where people look back and realize that everything changed in a single day. One conversation led to a new opportunity. One decision opened a door that had been closed for years. One unexpected event shifted the entire course of their future. These moments often appear suddenly, but in truth, they are part of a greater plan that God has been arranging long before we could see it. Sometimes we assume that because nothing has changed for a long time, nothing ever will. But God does not follow the patterns we create in our minds. He is able to interrupt the ordinary flow of life and bring transformation in an instant. A situation that seemed hopeless yesterday can look completely different tomorrow. The challenge for many people is that they give up just before the turnaround happens. After waiting and struggling for so long, they lose the strength to keep believing. They begin to think that their prayers will never be answered and that their situation is fixed forever. But often, the breakthrough is closer than they realize. It is important to understand that God's power is not limited by the length of your struggle. Whether the problem has lasted a few weeks or many years, God is still able to change it. Time does not weaken His ability to act. In fact, sometimes the longer the struggle lasts, the more powerful the turnaround becomes when it finally arrives. Imagine a dark night that feels endless. The hours seem to move slowly, and it feels as if the darkness will never end. But no matter how long the night lasts, the sunrise always arrives suddenly. In a matter of moments, the darkness that covered everything begins to disappear. Light fills the sky, and a new day begins. The night did not last forever, and the light did not struggle to appear. It arrived with power. In the same way, the struggles you are facing right now may feel long and exhausting. You may look at your situation and think that change is impossible, but God is still the God of sudden turnarounds. He is able to bring light into the darkest moments of your life. Before you even realize what is happening, the situation that once seemed unmovable can begin to shift. Doors that were closed can open. Paths that were hidden can become clear. Opportunities that seemed impossible can suddenly appear. And when that moment arrives, you may look back at the long season of struggle and realize that the turnaround came faster than you ever imagined. Because when God decides to move, everything can change in ways that only He could have planned. Faith is one of the most powerful forces in the life of a believer, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many people think faith only matters when everything is going well, when prayers are being answered quickly, and when life seems to be moving in the right direction. In those moments, it feels easy to believe. But real faith is not proven when the path is clear. Real faith is revealed when the road is uncertain, when the answers have not arrived, and when the future looks unclear. Faith is what keeps a person standing when circumstances try to push them down. It is the quiet confidence deep in the heart that says, even though I cannot see the outcome, I still trust that God is working. That kind of faith is not built in comfort. It is formed during moments of waiting, during seasons of doubt, and during times when everything around us seems to suggest that nothing will change. There are many people who stop believing because they focus only on what they can see. When the situation looks difficult, their hope becomes smaller. When the answer takes longer than expected, their faith begins to weaken. They start to believe that God may have forgotten them, or that their prayers are no longer being heard. But faith is not based on visible evidence. Faith is choosing to believe that God is still in control, even when the evidence is not yet visible. Think about how often life presents moments where the future cannot be predicted. There are times when we stand at a crossroads without knowing which direction things will go. In those moments, the human mind wants certainty. It wants proof. It wants to know exactly how everything will turn out. But God often invites us to walk forward in faith rather than certainty. Faith does something powerful inside the human heart. It keeps hope alive when disappointment tries to take its place. It reminds us that our circumstances do not have the final word over our lives. When a person chooses to hold on to faith, they are declaring that the story is not finished yet. Holding on to faith does not mean pretending that problems do not exist. It does not mean ignoring pain or struggle. Faith simply means believing that those problems and struggles are not greater than the power of God. It is trusting that the same God who has helped people throughout history is still able to move today. There is also something remarkable about the way faith positions a person for what God is about to do. When a heart remains open and expectant, it becomes ready to recognize the opportunities and blessings that God places in its path. A person who has lost all faith may miss the very door that God opens. But a person who continues to believe remains alert, hopeful, and ready for the unexpected. Faith is like keeping a light burning during the darkest part of the night. The darkness may surround you, but the light reminds you that morning is coming. The presence of that light changes how you endure the night. Instead of surrendering to despair, you hold on with the quiet confidence that the darkness will not last forever. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply refusing to give up. It is waking up each day and choosing to trust God again, even when the answers have not arrived yet. It is continuing to pray when the silence feels long. It is continuing to hope when others have stopped believing. What many people do not realize is that faith itself is preparing the heart for God's surprises. When a person keeps believing, they remain open to the possibility that something good can still happen. They are ready to receive the blessing when it arrives. There are countless stories of people who held on to faith through the hardest seasons of their lives. At times they felt discouraged. At times they wondered if their prayers were being heard. But they refused to let go of their trust in God. And then, often when they least expected it, the situation changed. That is why faith matters so deeply. It keeps your heart ready for the moment when God moves. It keeps your eyes open for the opportunities that may suddenly appear. It reminds you that the silence of today does not determine the outcome of tomorrow. When you hold on to faith, you are standing in a place where God's surprises can reach you. And sometimes the very moment you feel closest to giving up is the moment when the breakthrough is nearest. Many people make a quiet decision about their lives long before their story is actually finished. They look at their circumstances, their disappointments, and their past struggles, and they come to the conclusion that nothing significant will ever change. They begin to believe that the most meaningful moments of their lives are already behind them. When hope fades in this way, the future begins to feel smaller and smaller. But the truth is that no human being has the authority to write the final chapter of their own story. That privilege belongs to God alone. As long as there is breath in your lungs and another day before you, the story of your life is still being written. The pages that lie ahead may contain moments that you cannot yet imagine. There is a dangerous habit many people fall into, and that habit is deciding too early what their future will be. They allow a difficult season to convince them that their entire life will always feel the same. A year of disappointment becomes the definition of their entire journey. A season of closed doors becomes proof that no doors will ever open again. Yet life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. History is filled with stories of people whose greatest moments arrived after long seasons of struggle. For years they faced obstacles, setbacks, and moments where it seemed like nothing was going their way. If someone had looked at their lives during those difficult periods, they might have assumed that their future would always remain limited. But then something changed. An opportunity appeared. A new direction opened. A door that once seemed impossible suddenly became reality. Often those turning points come near the end of a season, when people are almost ready to give up. When hope is weak and expectations are low, that is sometimes when God steps into the situation and reveals that the story was never finished. What looked like the end of the road was actually the beginning of a new chapter. There is something powerful about understanding that the best moment of your life may still be ahead of you. That belief changes the way you face each day. Instead of living with a sense of defeat, you begin to live with quiet expectation. You realize that tomorrow may hold opportunities you have not yet seen. The future has a way of unfolding in ways that no one can fully predict. The path you are walking today may look ordinary, even discouraging, but one unexpected event can redirect everything. A conversation can open a door. A decision can create a new path. A moment of courage can lead to a completely different future. Sometimes people look back on their lives and realize that the moment that changed everything seemed small when it first happened. They did not know at the time that it would become the beginning of something greater. Yet that moment eventually led to opportunities, relationships, and experiences they never expected to have. This is why it is so important not to surrender hope, simply because the present moment feels difficult. The year may be closer to its end than its beginning, but that does not mean nothing meaningful can still happen. In fact, some of the most surprising moments in life happen when people believe the season is almost over.